All right, chapter 24 is Veruca in the Nut Room. Mr. Wonka rushed down the nut room, it said on the next door they came to. All right, said Mr. Wonka. Stop here for a moment and catch your breath. And take a peek through the glass panel of this door. But don't go in. Whatever you do, don't go into the nut room. If you go in, you'll disturb the squirrels. Everyone crowded around the door. Oh, look, Grandpa, look, cried Charlie. Squirrels, shouted Veruca Salt. Jeepers, said Mike TV. It was an amazing sight. 100 squirrels were seated upon high stools around the large table. On the table there were mounds and mounds of walnuts, and the squirrels were working away like mad, shelling the walnuts at a tremendous speed. These squirrels are specially trained for getting nuts out of walnuts, Mr. Wonka explained. Why use squirrels? Mike TV asked. Why not use Oompa Loompas? Because, said Mr. Wonka, Oompa Loompas can't get walnuts out of the walnut shell in one piece. They always break them in two. Nobody except squirrels can get walnuts whole out of walnut shells every time. It is extremely difficult. But in my factory, I insist upon using only whole walnuts. Therefore, I have to go have squirrels to do their job. Aren't they wonderful? The way they get those nuts out? And see how they first tap each walnut with their knuckles to be sure it's not a bad one. If it is bad, it makes a hollow sound, and they don't bother to open it. They just throw it down the garbage chute. There, look, watch the squirrels nearest to us. I think he has a bad one now. They watched the little squirrel as he tapped the walnut shell. Let me slide this up. As he tapped the walnut shell with his knuckles, he cocked his head to one side, listening intently. Then, suddenly, he threw the nut over his shoulder into a large hole on the floor. Hey, Mummy, shouted Veruca suddenly. I've decided I want a squirrel. Get me one of those squirrels. Don't be silly, sweetheart, said Mrs. Salt. These all belong to Mr. Wonka. I don't care about that, shouted Veruca. I want one. All I've got at home is 2 dogs and 4 cats and 6 bunny rabbits and 2 parakeets and 3 canaries and a green parrot and a turtle and a bowl of goldfish and a cage of white mice and a silly old hamster. I want a squirrel. All right, my pet, Mrs. Salt said smoothly. Mommy will get you a squirrel just as soon as she possibly can. But I don't want any old squirrel, Veruca shouted. I want a trained squirrel. At this moment, Mr. Salt, Veruca's father, stepped forward. Very well, Wonka, he said importantly. Taking out a wallet full of money. How much do you want for one of these crazy squirrels? Name your price. They're not for sale, Mr. Wonka answered. She can't have one. Who says I can't have one? Shouted Veruca. I'm going in to grab me a squirrel this very minute. Don't, Mr. Wonka said quickly, but it was too late. The girl had already thrown open the door and rushed in. The moment she entered the room, 100 squirrels stopped what they were doing and turned their heads and stared at her with small, black, beady eyes. Veruca stopped also and stared back at them. All right, so our first question says, how does Veruca's selfishness affect the actions of her father? So if you're thinking about selfishness, it means that she is only thinking of herself. So here we are on this page where it talks about Veruca having a conversation with her parents. Hey, Mommy, shouted Veruca. And if you're following along, I'm right here. I've decided I want a squirrel. Get me one of those squirrels. Don't be silly, sweetheart, said Mrs. Salt. Those belong to Mr. Wonka. I don't care about that, shouted Veruca. I want one, and I've got all I have is, and then she starts listing all these things. So I'm going to keep going on because my focus is on her father. So I know she started off saying what she wanted. She listed all the things that she already has, and it says, you know, Mommy will get you one as soon as I possibly can, but I don't want just any old squirrel, Veruca shouted. I want a trained squirrel. At this point, Mr. Salt, so here I'm finding the father, stepped forward. Very well, Wonka, he said, importantly, taking out his wallet full of money. How much would you want for one of those squirrels? Name your price. They're not for sale, Mr. Wonka says. She can't have one. Who says I can? And then she goes on to actually go inside. So the father then in turns, he is going to give Veruca what she wants. And he's trying to pay Mr. Wonka whatever he can in order to give that to her. So I'm looking at my answer choices. A says he does whatever she demands. She demanded a squirrel. She demanded a trained squirrel. And here it is. He is trying to give her just that. B, he becomes frustrated by her selfishness. So he may be frustrated, but he's not showing signs of being frustrated right now. He's giving in to what she is asking for. So that's not our best choice. C, he tells her no when she is being ridiculous. Well, it quite seems like she's being ridiculous right now. She lists all these things that she already has at home, different animals, and yet she wants another. Not just any old thing. She wants one of Mr. Wonka's trained squirrel. And he is not telling her no. He is pulling out his wallet and getting ready to get her one. It says D. He is sad when she gets what she wants. He doesn't seem sad at all. Again, the best answer choice goes along with the first one, that he is going to get her whatever it is that she demands. Question number 2. Why does Mr. Wonka say that she can't have a squirrel? So right here where Mr. Salt is stepping forward to try to pay Mr. Wonka, he simply replies, they're not for sale. She can't have one. She wants one, but they're not for sale and she can't have it. A, they are unsafe for people to have. B, they are not for sale. Right here. It says C, they only listen to Mr. Wonka. And D, they do not like how she smells. Our best answer choice goes along with what the text actually says, in that they're not for sale and she can't have one. You're going to go ahead and finish reading the remainder of the chapter and then start answering your questions.